What's going on, everyone? Travis Brown with the Eagle, Robert Cessna over there. Also with the Eagle, we're here at Davis Wade Stadium, where the Aggies just beat Mississippi State for the first time since 2012 in a pretty dominating defensive performance. Cease, what was your quick takes from the game?
Just the fact that A&M dominated. It's a two-score win, but it really felt like a four-score win. A&M was at least a touchdown better than Mississippi State can really say for each quarter, except for the fluke, the lucky bounce, the pick six return. A&M left some points off the board, which is maybe not that unusual to expect because they're on the road at Mississippi State, coming off a big victory, but just really a very dominating victory. Yeah, A&M made a lot of mistakes, which we'll get into, but the bottom line was this felt like felt like a 35-7 or 38-7 victory.
You know, I was texting Alex during the game, and the guy who's on here, Alex Miller, and he said, this seems like a funny game. I said, this feels like one of those high school games where one team knows the other team is just that much better than them, and they just kind of didn't come to play. I mean, Mississippi State's offensive line was just Swiss cheese for most of the night, especially even during a three-man rush at times. And they just didn't seem to be able to get anything going. But credit to defensive coordinator Mike Elko. He's a guy who's pretty much known and sticks with his four-man front, his man-to-man defense coverage. He went mostly zone with a three-man front today, brought pressure every now and then. They got 6 sacks. They did what they needed to do and followed that blueprint of how to beat Mike Leach's air raid.
You know, a lot of times we do talk about, what is things that they do. We always talk about schemes, but the bottom line is how do you win your place in space? And to me, there's no doubt that A&M dominated the line of scrimmage because if you look, they dropped 8 in coverage, but they still got tremendous pressure with 3 guys. They got so much pressure with 3 guys that a lot of times Mississippi State had to quickly throw the ball to the side. And when you can get pressure with 3 against 5, I mean, oh my gosh, you're going to have a lot of success.
Alex, what was your quick takes from the game?
Yeah, it kind of seemed like a vanilla game, but I will say A&M, when they had the chance to take momentum, they took advantage of it. They blocked the punt. They scored on the next play. They got the fumble recovery that they punched in the touchdown. When Mississippi State, they got that second score, A&M went down the field and scored again. Mississippi State, they kind of hung around, but the Aggies weren't playing games. They didn't let them have a chance in that game. Defense, I mean, how about the defensive effort? 3-man front, we talk about how A&M, they run a lot of man defense, but Mike Elko, he stuck to that blueprint that Kentucky and Arkansas that they kind of showed, and it worked. I mean, Jayden Peavy said it. How do you beat a Mike Leach offense? You rush 3 and get to the quarterback, and that's exactly what they did. A lot of speed. At times they sent that 4th and even a 5th rusher, and when they did, it really paid off. So great day on defense for A&M, especially when the offense, there wasn't a lot of fireworks. In that first half, they really rode Isaiah Spiller there in the second quarter. A lot of zone run plays. Kellen, pretty pedestrian day. The big play was the touchdown catch and run to Chase Lane. But other than that, there wasn't really anything crazy that happened with the offense. And like Carson Green said, last week, offense kind of bailed out the defense. And this week, the defense kind of bailed out the offense with all those big stops. I thought it was a good win for A&M. This has been a tricky place for them to go and be successful at. And so, you look around the conference and ranked teams are losing. Auburn loses to South Carolina. Kentucky beats Tennessee. For A&M to not kind of have that hiccup game after the win over Florida, that's big for A&M in kind of this odd year. They keep pace at the top of the division when teams are just eating each other up left and right around them. And now they go into a bye week and they're going to play an Arkansas team that's on a roll. I mean, they went and beat Ole Miss. They probably could have scored 40, but took a knee at the 1-yard line with less than a minute left. So all of a sudden, this Arkansas game, which has kind of been a thorn in A&M's side and giving Aggies grief till the bitter end. I mean, A&M's come out victorious every time. since they joined the SEC. But, that's not going to be an easy game in 2 weeks. And you got to feel good if you're A&M going home with the win today.
For those of you who are watching on Facebook and on Periscope, be sure to fire any questions or comments you have for us today from this game, or just want to spout off about what happened. I hear what you said, Alex, but I almost kind of think, and Cease, you can tell me what you think about this, against this defense that has some good defensive numbers, but isn't, Alabama or anything like that. They really didn't need fireworks. They needed to run the ball because they were giving them the middle of the field. They weren't stacking the box. They needed to run the ball to establish the run and then pass when they needed to pass. And I think this is one of those games that didn't necessarily call on the offense to win their game, like they said, like Carson Green said, and the offense did what it needed to do to win the game.
Well, the problem is, I think a good thing for A&M looking forward, they made some small mistakes that cost them scoring 40 points. Juan's best throw of the day might have been the ball over the outstretched hand of a linebacker to Smith in front of the safety. They turned into a 47-yard gain down to the 9 or 8, but Kenyon Green was called for a hold. That wiped out, which would have been the third 45-yard or longer pass, or fourth when you consider the touchdown as well. So that would have been a touchdown. They could have taken a touchdown at the end when they took a knee. They had 3 penalties on a punt return that one of the most important penalties, they didn't get the ball. So they gave up a possession. So A&M's making these mistakes. But once again, when your line is so dominant, you can go ahead and make those mistakes and still win. So they're going to be able to go back and correct those. This is still an offense that's going to most weeks put 35 to 40 points on. And you can say, well, Cesta, 28. No, they should have 35 at the end. Smith's pass should have caught Kenyon Green, should have been holding. That puts you up to 42 right there. And that's not even considered the other things in the game. So when you could say the offense was pedestrian, I agree with you, but they still could have scored 40 points with just a couple tweaks. And this was a defense that everyone said was pretty good. The numbers said, hey, they played LSU. They played Kentucky. They had some very good defensive numbers, and that defense did not really do anything except for the lucky bounce to get an interception. So once again I think A&M's got to feel awful good. You guys touched on the people who lost. Not only did A&M win on the road, it was really a very easy win, because other than when they had that touchdown, the freak touchdown, I said, oh, here comes all the momentum. A&M went right down and scored. All the air went out of this place. The 11,000 sounded like 100. The game was over at that point.
The 11,000 sounded like the piped-in crowd noise that they had.
There you go.
From the. So the Isaiah Spiller, 18 carries, 114 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's probably the standout offensive player.
He's
had a great game. Interestingly enough, though, left in the fourth quarter, had his left ankle taped pretty heavily and was kind of limping around the sidelines. But they proved that they have a little bit of depth there with Anaya Smith, with Devin Achane, who came in at the end of the game and to help kind of seal things out. They also had Ernest Crownover in there for, I believe, a play, but he was in a play where he came out in the flat. It was one of those third downs that Mon threw an incomplete pass that Crownover was open in the flat. If he hits Crownover, they might move the chains and get a big first down early there in the first half. That being said, they flexed their running back muscle a little bit today against what, like you said, the number said is a pretty decent defense.
Yeah, and also is once again is man oh man, they won the offensive line, they won a defensive line against a team that's a program that's noted for their linemen. Just a few years ago, they sent 2 defensive linemen in the first round to the NFL, and that's why A&M lost here 2 years ago because of those guys. But it actually Mon threw a couple bad balls today. I thought he didn't step into a few throws, but once again, he's on the road. When you go on the road, remember. Last time on the road, they lost at Alabama. They made more mistakes, really, in a better opponent. So this time, yeah, you look at those 3 penalties on the one play, but you're going to have some mistakes on the road with such a young team. But when you can win, but convincingly by really 3 scores, 4 scores, you're able to build on it. We touched on it before. A&M Moving forward, South Carolina lost today. Tennessee lost today. Auburn lost today. The only two teams ranked left on A&M's schedule lost. A&M won today. The bottom line is this was going to be a huge game to add on to Florida. Yeah, this wasn't the Florida win where everybody goes, oh, man, let's go to Northgate. Oh, this is great, da-da-da. It was a business-like win. Ugly at times, but that final score was 28-14 at Starkville. They lost here the last 3 times.
I know we need to get out of here. We got people waiting on us here to get out of this room. So let's real quick, I know you haven't necessarily considered all of them. Quick take on your grades.
Well, once again, you got to give higher than a C in almost everything. And the defense was outstanding. When you went in the road with that defense, how could you say anything against that defense? They gave up 1 score when the game was over. You went on the road. You wanted a place where you lost the last 3 years. You want to give a lot of B's, possibly B- if you're Jimbo Fisher, because there's work to be done. This team can be better, but come on, let's be honest. A lot of us wouldn't have been surprised if they come in here late and they lost, but they didn't.
We all talked about how this was a key 2-game stretch, beating Florida, but not succumbing to a little bit of a trap game at Mississippi State. The sky's kind of the limit for them now. They have some tough games, but I know people are tweeting out. You want to knock on wood. It was even asked about it. They might have the easiest path to the college football playoff of any SEC football team if they can win out with this schedule. We're sitting here kind of mid-season at the bye week. Where is A&M? What is the ceiling for A&M as we finish out the season?
To me, this was a huge game because the defense played well. I didn't think the defense played well at Alabama. They obviously didn't play well against Florida. They didn't even play well against Vanderbilt for 3 quarters. Vanderbilt could have won that game. So the defense, this is the Mike Elko defense that I thought would be here in year 3. This defense made plays. Buddy Johnson's becoming a big-time player. The defensive line keeps getting better because of Leal, because of Peavy. So once again is when you got so many, they're getting playmakers at all levels. When you get playmakers at all levels, Lane had another big play. I thought that was huge, Lucien Chapman, that Lane had a huge play. He turned a 2-yard completion into whatever it was, 49. So once again and no big injuries. Anytime you play football, look across the country, people are having big-time injuries. A&M, yes, Spiller was limping, but a lot more people were limping, the guys that tried to tackle him.
Yeah, for sure. Alex, what's the ceiling for this A&M team now where we sit?
Yeah, I mean, I think 9-1 is definitely the ceiling. I mean, you look at the road ahead, you look at the teams that A&M still has to play. There's not a game on the schedule, in my opinion, that you can go, this is a for sure loss. Obviously, road games at Tennessee, at home against LSU, on the road against Auburn. I mean, closing with that kind of stretch, and then you throw a home game against Ole Miss in there. I mean, yeah, you're running the gauntlet in November in the SEC, but you can't tell me right now that any of those games you're like, man, I don't think A&M can win that. I think A&M can win every game that's left on their schedule. It's just a matter of, can they keep building on what they're doing? Carson Green said after the game, the difference in this team is they don't crater. That's something that we've kind of seen happen at times in years past, but veteran team, they've got a lot of talent that's young. We saw a lot of young guys on the defensive side, particularly today, especially in the secondary when they were running those dime and nickel packages. We'll see what they do over these next 2 weeks, how they kind of progress with the bye week. It's kind of their get better week, they said. They have a winnable game against Arkansas, and then here we go. I mean, it's down the home stretch, and A&M's got a chance. And, I'm willing to bet they're going to be paying attention to what happens tonight in Tuscaloosa, because that's a big game, and A&M doesn't have to play Georgia for the rest of the regular season.
Kind of a stark contrast from 2016, where A&M ranked number 4 in the nation, comes over here to Mississippi State. Trevor Knight gets injured, they lose, and the season just kind of tanked downhill from there. They come here to Starkville, get their first win since 2012, and now it kind of seems like doors are open for them instead of doors shutting. Moving on in the season, probably a good thing though that they had this bye week leading into Arkansas, which not only is Arkansas a tough test every year, no matter what they're doing, but it's even more compounded with what they were able to do today against Ole Miss these last couple of games. They're a tough team. We got people looking at us here that want us to get out of this room so they can clean it up. So we need to do that. Thanks everyone so much for watching. We'll be back this week to wrap everything up with Jimbo Fisher. Be sure to check theeagle.com for all the recaps and everything for today, and we will talk to you again soon.